how the system can be designed so that it meets every requirement of a client. The requirements are collected and separated into the user requirement. This system analysis describes the roadmap that is required for their plan. Python is a programming language that requires and supported by various libraries. Hello everyone, it is Dr. Ravi Kumar YB. Today we shall learn about the software development lifecycle. What is the meaning of software development lifecycle? When you start developing any of the software products, you must have incorporated and followed certain principles of software engineering or certain procedures of software engineering so that the quality and efficiency as well as the reliability of a software can be maintained. By following the software development lifecycle models, you will be able to get what exactly the project is going to be completed. That means how the project is going to be completed in a systematic manner is going to be taught here in case of software development lifecycle. In case of software development lifecycle, you will come across different phases of software development lifecycle. That is, in this case, when you start developing any of the products, you will come across the first one, that is requirements analysis. What is the meaning of requirements analysis? Which I have already discussed with you in the previous sessions. That is having a communication with the client. That is, which may be described in the form of a written request or the written information is collected from the client. Then system analysis as to how the system can be designed so that it meets every requirement of a client and how does the system works when it is deployed into the user's machine. All those things must be kept in mind and it has to be designed and analyzed according to the requirements of a client. Then system design. The system design includes the designing of these descriptions which is collected and analyzed in the previous two steps in the form of a pictorial representation. Whether you may employ the class diagram or you may employ the object diagram or you may employ any other easily rememberable or memorable type of models which allows you to write down the descriptions in the form of a pictorial. That is, the pictorial representation is very, very important when you start writing the diagrams which is represented in the form of it. That is, the requirements and analysis collected from the client can be represented in the form of a pictorial representation. Now, in the fourth point, you will learn about code design. The code design corresponds to the type of programming language you are going to employ to meet the requirements of a client. That is very, very important. So, for example, if you take up the open source software, that is Java, you will come across different types of libraries. Various libraries are available. Similarly, if you take up another programming language like Python, you will come up with various types of different types of software libraries are supported in case of Python. That is, by incorporating all those libraries and packages into your program, the program may become more efficient and it works in a less time complexity. So that is also very, very important. The choice of programming language for the implementation of the requirements of a client is also very, very important, which can be designed and coded in the fourth phase of the software product development. Then once it is developed, it has to be sent to the testing team or a testing department where they will apply few of the test cases, possible set of test cases. In that case, they will apply the test case 1 with some suitable combinations of input and what is the output going to be generated by the system. All those things are noticed and it has to be updated in the written information. For any given input, the response of the system is going to be recorded, and the response is going to be written in the form of an description, and the changes and the requirements of the client is going to be met with, that is checked against the implemented part of that is done. That is, the correctness of the system is going to be verified and validated in the testing team. Next, deployment. The deployment corresponds to the installation of these softwares, that is the executable form of the software in any of the user's machine is done in the case of deployment phase. Now then, maintenance. What is that maintenance? Suppose if there are any changes which he observes to be incorporated in the system, that is in the software product, then he comes back to the software developer and asks for necessary changes that is required in the software product. Then it has to be updated and it has to be incorporated in the system, that is in the software product, and it has to be delivered to him in time, that is the scheduling. The same thing. Next, the updates. Whatever the information or the updated, the necessary changes incorporated into the software product must be updated back to the client with suitable solutions to the questions or problems of the client in the software product. The same thing is going to be explained here. The software development lifecycle, in short, it is also called as an SDLC. The SDLC is a well-defined, structured sequence of stages in software engineering to develop the intended software product. That is, the software product or any of the applications which you develop, that needs to be developed in a well-defined, systematic manner by following the software development lifecycle phases. That is this one. That is, the first one is requirements, second one system analysis, third one system design, fourth one coding, fifth one testing, sixth one deployment, seventh one maintenance, and eighth one updates. All these must be carried out very safely to meet the requirements of a client. Next, here SDLC activities. Which are the different types of activities that is going to be conducted by the software developers? First one is communication. Communication is the first process of collecting the information in case of software development lifecycle, wherein you will see that the user initiates the request for a desired software product. He contacts the service provider and tries to negotiate the terms, whether the terms may be in terms of budget or it may be in terms of the scheduling, that is the time required to deliver the software product to the user or an end user or a client. All those things are negotiated in the form of a description. That is, he writes a request to the client or to the software developer or to the company from where it is to be developed. Then once it is developed, the service providing the organization in the writing. That is, it has to be written in the form of the request to the software company from where it has to be developed. This software development lifecycle consists of first one, communication. Then the software company initiates the task of requirement collection, that is requirement gathering. They will start collecting their information and starts documenting the information in the form of a description. Then feasibility study. They will check whether the project which is approached by the client is going to be worth enough to the company or not, is going to be checked. That is called as a feasibility study, which you will study in this next step. That is, you will see here. Requirement gathering. That is, see here. This is communication is the first step. Second one is requirements gathering. Third one is feasibility study. If you look at this requirements gathering, this step onwards, the software development team works to carry on the project. The team holds discussion with various stakeholders for problem domain and tries to bring out any information as possible on their requirements. That means the software development team works to carry the project. The team holds discussion with various stakeholders. What is the meaning of stakeholders here? The people who are very well versed with development of the software product is called as stakeholders. They will have a discussion with those stakeholders from problem domain and tries to bring out the information as much as possible on their requirements. The requirements are contemplated and segregated into user requirements, system requirements, functional requirements, and collected using a number of practices as given. You will see that in the next slide. That is, the requirements are collected and separated into the user requirement. What is the requirement of a user? What is the functional requirements? Which are the non-functional requirements? What is the system requirements? All those things are segregated and kept in place. If you look at this requirements gathering, studying the existing or obsolete system and software. That is, suppose if there is any other software which is similar to the requirements of a client is already in use, they will search for that. That is one thing. And if there is any software which is obsolete, that means which is not at all working, which is not in place, not in use at all, that is called as an obsolete software system. Conducting interviews of users and developers. What is the meaning of that? An interview is conducted between the client or a user and the developers. The discussion is going to be conducted between the client and the software developers so that the necessary information required for the development of the software can be collected from the client very easily. Then referring to the database, which is the database going to be used in that all those information must be gathered or collected. Then collecting answers from the questionnaires. Suppose if there is any questions that arises in the clients, those questions must be notable and noticed in the description, in the document, in the form of a description. Such questionnaires must be answered and solutions must be given and incorporated in the software product, that is in the original software product. Then feasibility study, which is the third step of this feasibility study. What does this feasibility study, SDLC activities, stands for? Feasibility study, as I have already told you, that whether the software product order received from the client or a user is going to be worth enough for the company is called as feasibility study. Whether the resources required for meeting the requirements of a client is available with their company or not. All these are called as a feasibility study. Suppose if there is a resource in terms of the people who are very much familiar with developing the software product to the consumer or to the user, if it is available, what is the charge, what is the amount going to be spent on them, and whether it is worth enough to spend on them, and whether it is going to be profitable to the company, all those things are calculated. That is called as a feasibility study. In this case of feasibility study, if it is not found, they will not go ahead of developing the software. If they found that it is suitable and the project is financially, practically and technologically feasible and helpful to their company, then the organization takes up the project, that is the development of software product. There many algorithms are available which helps the developer to conclude the feasibility of the software project. That means they will check whether the software product order received from the client is going to be financially helpful and technologically helpful to their company or not. If it is helpful, they will take up the project and complete the software development product according to the schedules which they fix up with the client. Otherwise, they will drop the analysis part of that. Then, system analysis. This is the fourth part of this software development life cycle, that is this system analysis. What is the meaning of system analysis? Let me tell you that. System analysis. This system analysis describes the roadmap that is required for their plan and tries to bring up the best software model suitable for the project. There are different types of software development model, that is waterfall model, iterative model, Big Bang model, V model. All these are different types of software development lifecycle models. They are going to employ which model is suitable for that particular software product. All those things are discussed and analyzed. That is called as a system analysis. Then system analysis includes understanding of software product limitations, learning system, related problems on changes done in the existing system beforehand. That means understanding the software product limitations. What is the drawback of that software product? What is the advantage of using that software product when it is delivered to the client or to the user? All those things are analyzed. That is called as system analysis. The project team analyzes the scope of the project and plans the schedule and resources accordingly. When there is a resource, sufficient resources are available. Resource may be in terms of time. Resource may be in terms of personalities, persons, employees who are very much familiar with the technology that is required to build this software product. All those things are analyzed. That is called as system analysis. The next step in the system software design, that is, they bring down the whole knowledge of requirements and analysis on the desk and design the software product. Fifth step of this, that is the software design. In case of software design, they will conduct the informations like this. The whole knowledge of requirements that they have collected from the client and the analysis that is done on the part of the requirements of the client. All those things are measured and brought down to a single compact form called discussion. That is called as software design. It has to be designed in the form of this. Document, analyze the problem first. That has to be documented, and then generate the system interface document. This is the second phase. Then in the third phase, from here to here you will get, that is the third phase, that is evaluate the system document. Once it is evaluated, it has to be first, let me try out with this. First, analyze the problem. Second one, generate the system interface. Third one, evaluate the system document. Fourth one, generate the architecture. Fifth one, evaluate the architecture. Sixth one, generate the detailed design document. Then evaluate the detailed design document. Eighth one, review the design. Among all these, the first one is analyze the problem. In this case, the software design is going to be met. The requirements of a client is analyzed in the first phase. That is, The second phase, what has to be the user interface that has to be created for the users to interact with the system. All those things are reported here. Then evaluation of the document, whether the documentation carried out by the interviewer with the client is properly documented or not, is going to be verified. Then we have to generate the architecture. What has to be the architecture or the design flow from one module to another as to how the data needs to flow. The entire architecture is going to be drawn. Then evaluate the architecture. Again, it has to be evaluated whether the architecture is meeting the requirements of a client, is going to be checked and verified. Then generate the detailed design document. The detailed design document is to be generated after evaluating the design document. Then finally evaluate the design document, detailed design document. In the seventh step, we will take the detailed design document and then we will evaluate whether it is correctly written or not. That is, the detailed design written by the software developer is properly written or not, is checked and verified. Then finally they will review the design. That is, the entire design architecture written for meeting the requirements of a client is going to be met in the design architecture or not, is reviewed. That is in the last phase of this. Then we will go to the coding. The coding includes the different types of programming language that may be helpful for incorporating the requirements of a client, whether if they incorporate the requirements of a client in the form of the Python programming language, or in the form of a Java programming language, or in the form of a .NET programming language, or any of the cutting edge technologies that may be helpful for incorporating the requirements of a client is going to be tested here. That is called as the coding. The coding is done in the form of the implementation. That is called as implementation, is also called as a coding. Then testing. We will come to the part of testing. In this case of testing, as I have already told you, that the testing is very, very important as it involves the verification and validation is conducted. That is, when the user's requirements are given to the testing team, it has to check, they have to check whether all the requirements requested in the form of a written document is met in the software, is going to be checked in this software development software product. So that is the reason testing is very, very important, because it requires verification as well as validation. Verification in the sense whether all the informations, criterias mentioned in the user's requirement is met or not. That is called as verification. Validation, that means whether all the requirements are properly met in the requirement in the software product is called as validation. Both verification and validation is very, very important in case of testing. Software testing is done while coding by the developers through testing is conducted by testing experts at various levels of code, such as module testing. Please keep this in your mind: module testing, program testing, product testing, and in-house testing, and testing the product at user's end. This is very, very important. These points must be mentioned in your answer scripts at the examination. That is, this module testing, which is conducted at the level of software developer, and program testing, which is done by the software developer as a part of unit testing. Then product testing, all these information, that is, the different modules are combined together or integrated together, and then the testing is carried out. That is called as the system testing. Then in-house testing, once it is tested, once the entire system testing is completed, it has to be tested in the testing department. Then testing the product at user's end. Once it is developed and delivered to the user, it has to be tested once again in his own system. That is called as the testing conducted at user's end. All these information or different types of testing helps them to reduce the flaws or the drawbacks which may hinder the performance of a software with the users at the user's end. In order to prevent such kind of problems or errors which may arise at the user's system, these types of testing are very, very essential. Very, very essential and important. Then integration. If you look at this testing, part of this coding is the sixth one, seventh one is testing, eighth one is integration. Here you will see that the integration of these integration. Software may need to be integrated with libraries, databases, and other programs. As I have already told you, if you take up any of the programming languages like Python. Python is a programming language that requires and supported by various libraries. Suppose if you want to perform any face detection algorithm, then you will have the different types of face detection algorithms and libraries supported for that. By just employing or incorporating or importing the existing libraries, you can run your software very efficiently to find out the face present in a video. That is called as face detection. Similarly, face recognition, face spoofing, all these are different tasks which you can come across in your mobile phones itself. That is, all these are softwares that requires suitable measures to be taken, and the libraries required for incorporating it in the software is also very, very important. All those softwares are supported by libraries are called as integration. That is, the softwares supported by the libraries together are called as an integration. The stage of SDLC is involved in the integration of software with outer world entities. That is what? The same. If you import any of the packages or any of the libraries from outside the functional description of this program, functional program, then it is called as an outside world library. Then implementation. This means installing the softwares on user's machine. Once it is developed, tested, verified and validated, it has to be delivered to the client. How it is going to be developed and delivered? Once it is delivered, it has to be tested whether the requirements of a client is being met in the user's system, end user's system. That is called as installation or implementation. Software is tested for portability. This is one of the important criteria. Adaptability. Integration related issues are solved during the implementation. Portability means it does not require more size or more space. Then adaptability, whether it is going to work properly in the environment, whether the operating system being used by the user is supporting the software to work properly. All those are called as an adaptability. And integration means using that software in that particular system is called as an integration. Then and solving the issues during the implementation is called as the phase of, very important phase of an implementation. Then operation and maintenance. In case of operation and maintenance, as I have already told you that in the yesterday's class, in the previous session, I was talking about a very good characteristics of a software development lifecycle involves the first one transitional, first one operational, second one transitional, third one maintenance. That the same thing applies here, operation and maintenance. What is the meaning of this operation? This phase confirms the software operation in terms of more efficiency and less errors. If required, the users are trained on or aided with the documentation on how to operate the software and how to keep the software operational. We are going to check whether the software is efficient or not, whether there is any suitable people who are very much familiar with the use of that software. If they are not familiar with the use of that software, then we have to train them as to how they can make use of that software for their work and make it operational in their phase, in their place. The software is maintained timely by updating the code according to the changes taking place in user and environment or technology. That is, if the software is not working properly in the end user's system, then the update information, that is, this part of the module is not working properly in the end user environment, then it has to be updated and documented immediately in the form of a description, and it has to be updated in the timely manner to the end user. That is called as this operational and maintenance. Then disposition. As time elapses, the software may decline or the performance front. It may go completely obsolete or may need intense upgradation. Sometimes what happens, do you know that when the Windows operating systems or Unix operating systems are updated with new patches of software, then sometimes it may become obsolete. Obsolete means which cannot be used properly in the future. That is called as an obsolete. Such things must be kept in mind and it has to be noticed here. Hence, a pressing need is to eliminate a major portion of the system arises. This phase includes archiving data and required software components, closing down the system, planning disposition activity, and terminating the system at appropriate end of system time. This states that this phase includes archiving the data and required software components. The software components which are obsolete. Suppose if there are 4 modules, one of the module is obsolete, not working properly, then it has to be archived. That means that has to be kept separately. That is called as an archiving the data. This is called as a disposition. Dispose or keep separately. That is called as a disposition. Then software development paradigm. In this case, paradigm helps the developer to select a strategy to develop the software. As I have already told you, software is not just a code or a program. It is an executable form of a program that helps the users to use the software product developed by the developer. That is why he has to take precautionary measures and suitable actions must be taken to build a suitable software product. Then, software development paradigm has its own tools, methods, and procedures which are expressed clearly and defines the software development life cycle. As I have already told you that the software development life cycle defines a set of procedures, set of well-defined procedures or methods using which we can develop the software more efficiently. That is also very, very important, which comes in the part of software paradigms. Thank you very much. Thank you all.